She set the table for 3. I didn't notice it at first. I was too busy watching her move through the penthouse kitchen, barefoot, silk blouse, hair loose around her shoulders, thinking this was the most beautiful I had ever seen Kwon Ji-Seo look. Thinking how lucky I was. Thinking how safe I felt. Then I counted the glasses. 3. My stomach dropped before my brain caught up. Ji-Seo. My voice came out smaller than I wanted. Who else is coming? She didn't turn around. She just reached for the wine bottle with those steady, surgeon-precise hands and said, "Someone important. I need you to meet her." Her. The word landed in my chest like a stone into still water. I felt the ripple before I understood the impact. I should have grabbed my coat right then. I should have walked out that door and never looked back. Instead, I straightened my dress and waited. That was my first mistake. Her name was Seo-Yeon. She arrived exactly at 8, because of course she did, because everything about her was deliberate, wearing a dark fitted dress that probably cost more than my monthly rent, carrying herself like someone who had never once doubted her right to enter any room she chose. Ji-Seo opened the door before she knocked. She had been listening for her footsteps. Something about that detail, that small, intimate, devastating detail, cracked something open in me that I have not been able to close since. Seo-Yeon stepped inside, and her eyes found me immediately. Not Ji-Seo, not the room, me. Like she had already been told exactly where I would be standing. Her gaze was dark and unreadable, and she looked at me for exactly 1 second too long before she smiled. "You must be Soo-Yeon," she said. "I've heard so much about you." I hadn't heard a single word about her. Not one. 14 months with Ji-Seo. 14 months of 3 a.m. conversations and borrowed scarves and knowing the exact way she took her coffee. And this woman's name had never once left her lips. I looked at Ji-Seo. She was already looking away. Dinner was a performance I didn't have the script for. Ji-Seo sat between us, controlled, elegant, steering conversation like a woman navigating a minefield she had personally designed. Seo-Yeon was charming in the way of someone who didn't need to try. She asked me questions about my work, tilted her head when I answered, laughed at the right moments. She was warm. She was magnetic. She was everything Ji-Seo had never mentioned. And under the table, Ji-Seo's hand found mine. She held it the entire meal. Tight, certain, like an apology she hadn't figured out how to speak yet. I let her hold it because I loved her. Because 14 months of love doesn't evaporate over one dinner, over one woman, over 3 wine glasses and a knot in my stomach. But I counted things. I couldn't stop counting. The number of times Ji-Seo refilled Seo-Yeon's glass without being asked. The number of times their eyes met over a sentence that didn't need eye contact. The number of times Seo-Yeon said, "Remember when," and Ji-Seo's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly, the same way it tightened when she was trying not to feel something. I counted 12 remember whens, 12 moments that didn't belong to the version of Ji-Seo I thought I knew. After dessert, Seo-Yeon excused herself to take a call. The moment she disappeared down the hallway, I turned to Ji-Seo. My heart was slamming. "Who is she?" I asked. "Really?" Ji-Seo set down her glass. Slowly. The way she did when she was choosing her next words with surgical care. "She's from my past," she said. "It's complicated." How complicated? She finally looked at me, and in her eyes, those eyes I had memorized, those eyes I had trusted completely, I saw something I had never seen there before. Guilt. Not the guilt of a woman caught in a small lie, the guilt of a woman carrying something enormous. My voice dropped to a whisper. "Ji-Seo, what did you do?" She opened her mouth, and that was the exact moment Seo-Yeon walked back into the room, set her phone face down on the table, and said, "She didn't tell you, did she?" My blood went cold. What does Seo-Yeon know, and why does she look at me like I'm the one who needs saving? Nobody moved. Not Ji-Seo, not me, not the candlelight, which seemed to hold its breath along with everything else in that room. Seo-Yeon stood at the edge of the table, phone face down, eyes on me, calm, steady, like a woman who had rehearsed this moment and decided, at the last second, to go off script. Ji-Seo's hand was still wrapped around mine. I felt her grip tighten, not in comfort, in warning. I pulled my hand away. "Tell me what?" My voice came out quiet, dangerously quiet. The kind of quiet that lives right before something breaks. Saren looked at Ji-Seo. Something passed between them. Fast. Loaded. The language of two people who had survived something together and never fully recovered from it. Saren. Ji-Seo's voice was ice. Don't. She deserves to know. Not like this. Then when? Saren's composure cracked. Just slightly. Just enough. After another 14 months? After another year of her believing something that isn't the whole truth? The words hit me like cold water to the face. Another 14 months. She knew exactly how long we had been together. She had been counting too. I stood up. I don't remember deciding to. My body just moved. Chair scraping back, napkin falling. The city glittering 40 floors below us, through the glass like it had no idea the world was ending up here. Someone tell me what is happening. I looked at Ji-Seo. Right now. Ji-Seo rose slowly. Everything about her was controlled. Her posture, her breathing, her expression. But her eyes betrayed her. They were doing the thing they only did when she was genuinely afraid. A slight widening. A stillness behind the surface. I had only seen that look once before. The night she told me she was falling for me. She was afraid then too. Soo-Yeon, don't say my name like that. My chest was burning. Don't say it like you're about to manage me. Just tell me the truth. The silence that followed was the loudest thing I have ever heard. Then Ji-Seo exhaled, long, slow. The sound of a woman setting down something she had been carrying for years. Saren and I are married. The room tilted. I grabbed the back of my chair. The candlelight blurred. I heard my own breathing. Unsteady, too loud. And Ji-Seo was still talking. Words coming out measured and careful. Words like legal arrangement and business protection, and it means nothing. But I couldn't process any of it, because the only thing my mind could hold was married. She was married. For how long? I wanted to ask. While she was holding my hand? While she was learning how I take my coffee? While she was whispering against my hair that I was the realest thing in her life? While she was loving me? How long? I finally said. It wasn't a question. It was barely even words. 5 years. 5 years. I had been loving a married woman for 14 months, and she had been married for 5 years, and I was the last to know, and the room was too warm, and the wine glass in front of me was half full, and I wanted to throw it through the window. Soo-Yeon. Saren's voice. Closer now, softer than I expected from a woman who had just detonated my entire world. There's something else. I looked at her. Her dark eyes held something I didn't expect. Not triumph, not possession. Remorse. The marriage can't be dissolved, she said quietly. Not yet. There's a clause. A financial trigger that would destroy everything Ji-Seo built if the paperwork goes through before a specific date. I stared at her. What date? Saren glanced at Ji-Seo. Ji-Seo looked at me with those guilty, terrified eyes. 90 days from now, Saren said. My heart stopped. And you've known about me this entire time? Saren held my gaze. I've known about you, she said carefully. Since the beginning. Since the beginning. My phone buzzed on the table. Unknown number. One message. Ask her whose idea it was to find you. Someone has been watching all three of us. And they know something even Saren won't say out loud. My phone was still buzzing. I turned it face down without reading the message again. My hands were steady, which surprised me, because everything inside me was screaming. Whose idea was it to find me? The question left my mouth before I could stop it. Low. Precise. The way I spoke when I was holding myself together with both hands and refusing to let anyone see the seams. Ji-Seo stepped forward. Soo-Yeon, let me explain. Answer the question. Silence. I watched her face. That beautiful, controlled, devastating face I had memorized over 14 months. And I saw the exact moment she decided to tell the truth. Something shifted behind her eyes. The CEO dissolved. Just for a second. Just enough. It was mine, she said. The idea was mine. The candlelight felt cruel now. Too warm. Too romantic for what this room had become. I picked up my phone. Read the message again. Ask her whose idea it was to find you. Someone had known she would confess tonight. Someone had known what she would say before she said it. I looked up at Ji-Seo, then at Saren, searching both their faces for something. A flicker. A tell. Anything. Saren was watching me with that careful, unreadable expression, but her jaw was tight. She hadn't known that message was coming, which meant whoever sent it wasn't her, which meant there was someone else. You targeted me. My voice didn't shake. I was almost proud of that. You found me deliberately. It wasn't like that. Ji-Seo moved closer. I stepped back. She stopped. I met you at that gala and I felt something real. What happened between us was never manufactured, Soo-Yeon. I need you to believe. But you knew about the marriage when you pursued me. Her silence was the answer. You knew you were legally bound to her. I gestured toward Saren. And you chose me anyway. Without telling me. Without giving me the choice. Yes, the word cost her something. I could see it. Why? She exhaled. Because I was drowning. Because Saren and I had destroyed each other, and I was alone inside a life that looked perfect from the outside. And then I saw you across that room, and you were so... She stopped, collected herself. You made me feel like I could breathe again. I almost softened. That's the terrible thing. Even then, even standing in the wreckage of everything she'd hidden, I almost reached for her. Instead, I turned to Saren. And you've known about me from the start and said nothing. Saren held my gaze. I signed a legal agreement that required my silence on matters related to Ji-Seo's personal life during the dissolution period. That's not an answer, that's an excuse. Something moved across her face, not offense, closer to respect. You're right, she said quietly. It is. I walked to the window, 40 floors of glittering city below me, indifferent and vast. I pressed my fingertips against the cold glass and breathed. 14 months. 14 months of believing I was someone's everything, and I had been someone's escape route. Carefully chosen, deliberately kept separate. Loved, maybe genuinely loved, but never fully told the truth. Ji-Seo's reflection appeared behind mine in the glass. I know I have no right to ask you to stay, she said softly. Then don't. But I'm asking anyway. I closed my eyes. Her warmth was inches from my back. I could feel it. That specific heat of her. The scent of her perfume that I had associated with safety for over a year. My body remembered her before my mind could stop it. Then my phone buzzed again. Same unknown number. New message. This one had an attachment. A photograph. Ji-Seo and Saren. Not 5 years ago. Not historical. The timestamp read 11 days ago. A private legal office. Documents spread across a table between them. 11 days ago. Ji-Seo had told me she hadn't seen Saren in years. I turned around slowly. Ji-Seo saw my face. Hers went white. That isn't what... Stop. My voice finally broke. Just slightly, just once. Stop telling me what things aren't. I held the phone up. Tell me what this is. The photograph was taken 11 days ago, 3 days after Ji-Seo looked me in the eyes and told me she hadn't seen Saren in years. Someone was there, someone was watching, and now they want me to know it. Ji-Seo didn't answer. That was its own answer. I watched her face cycle through something. Not quite guilt, not quite fear, but the specific expression of a woman whose architecture is collapsing and who is desperately calculating which wall to save first. Saren moved, slowly. She crossed the room and looked at my phone screen. Her eyes darkened. Ji-Seo. Her voice was quiet, controlled, but underneath it, something sharp. You told me that meeting was confidential. It was. Then who took this? Silence swallowed the room. I looked between them, these two women, bound by law and history, and something I still didn't have the full shape of, and felt something cold settle in my stomach. Not heartbreak, not yet. Something more precise than that. I was being used as a piece in a game whose rules I hadn't been given, and someone outside this room was making moves. I grabbed my coat from the chair. Soo-Yeon. Ji-Seo reached for my arm. Don't. I stepped sideways. Clean. Deliberate. Don't touch me right now. Her hand dropped. The hurt on her face was genuine. I knew her well enough to know that. But genuine hurt from a person who lied to you is still just hurt, wrapped around a lie. I was almost at the door when Saren spoke. If you leave right now, she said carefully, whoever sent those messages wins. I stopped, not because she was wrong, because she was exactly right. I turned slowly. What do you know about who sent them? Saren glanced at Ji-Seo. Something passed between them, fast and complicated. Sit down, Saren said. Please. The please surprised me. It didn't fit her. It sounded like something that cost her to say. I didn't sit, but I didn't leave. Ji-Seo spoke first. Her voice had lost its CEO edge, stripped down, raw in a way I had only heard in the dark, in private, in moments she never performed for anyone. 3 weeks ago, someone began leaking internal documents from KJS Capital, sensitive acquisition files, board communications, things that could only come from someone with deep access. She paused. The same week the leak started, I received an anonymous message telling me that someone close to me was being watched. My breath caught. Close to you. You, Soo-Yeon. They meant you. The room felt smaller suddenly. Someone targeted me to get to you. We think so. Ji-Seo's jaw tightened. The meeting in that photograph, the one 11 days ago, I didn't tell you about it because I was trying to protect you. Saren and I were meeting with a private investigator, trying to identify who was behind the leaks before they reached you. I stared at her. You were investigating a threat against me. Yes. While actively lying to my face about seeing Saren. She flinched. Yes. I laughed. It came out broken and hollow. Ji-Seo, do you hear yourself? I know how it sounds. It sounds like every decision you made was yours. Every choice to keep me in the dark was yours. You decided what I could handle, what I deserved to know. You managed me like a liability, instead of loving me like a person. The words landed. I watched them land. Her eyes went glassy. Not tears. Ji-Seo didn't cry, but the closest thing to it I had ever seen. Saren was very still across the room. I turned to her directly. Do you know who's behind this? A beat. One breath too long. We have a name, she said. But if it's correct. She stopped. Tell me. Her dark eyes held mine. Steady. Serious. And underneath, something that looked almost like protectiveness. If we're right, Saren said quietly, then you've met this person before. Recently. She paused. And they weren't a stranger to you. My pulse spiked. Who? I whispered. Saren reached into her jacket and pulled out a single photograph. She placed it face down on the table between us. Before I show you this, she said, I need you to prepare yourself. My hand moved toward it. Ji-Seo said, Soo-Yeon, wait. I flipped it over. The face staring back at me stopped my heart completely. I knew this face. I trusted this face. And now everything I thought was random, every meeting, every coincidence, every moment that brought me into Ji-Seo's world, is suddenly starting to look like it was planned. The photograph showed my best friend, Im Na-rae, the woman who had introduced me to that gala 14 months ago, who had handed me a fake press badge and a borrowed dress and said, just come, it'll be fun. Who had been my closest friend for 6 years, through every job loss, every heartbreak, every 2 a.m. phone call when the city felt too large and I felt too small. Na-rae. The photograph showed her entering a private building I recognized immediately, the same building where Ji-Seo's legal team operated. Timestamp, 8 months ago, 4 months after Ji-Seo and I started seeing each other. She wasn't visiting. The photograph showed her leaving with a sealed envelope tucked under her arm, an expression on her face I had never once seen directed at me. Satisfaction. Cold, deliberate satisfaction. My legs stopped working. I sat down, not gracefully, not intentionally. I simply sat because standing was no longer something my body knew how to do. How long have you known? My voice came out strange. Distant, like it belonged to someone in another room. 3 weeks, Saren said. We couldn't tell you until we were certain. 3 weeks. I repeated it slowly, tasting how wrong it felt. You've known for 3 weeks that my closest friend has been... What? What has she been doing exactly? Ji-Seo sat across from me. Her hands were folded on the table. Carefully, precisely, the way she held herself when she was containing something enormous. Na-rae approached our firm 8 months ago, Ji-Seo said. Not openly. She used an intermediary, a junior consultant who we've since identified. She sold information about your contract work, your security clearance levels, the type of corporate clients you handled. I stared at her. She sold my professional profile to someone who was building a case against KJS Capital. Someone who needed an insider, not inside our firm, but inside your life. Ji-Seo's voice was careful, deliberate. Someone who knew that the fastest way to destroy me wasn't through my boardroom. It was through something I actually cared about. The implications settled over me like ice water. Me. The fastest way to destroy Ji-Seo was through me. And Nare had handed them the blueprint. Why? The words scraped out of me. Why would she do this? Saren leaned forward. For the first time all evening, she looked less like an adversary and more like someone who understood exactly what this kind of betrayal felt like in your body. We don't know her full motive yet, she said. But we know she's connected to someone who lost significantly when Ji-Seo acquired Hana Consolidated 2 years ago. Someone who blamed Ji-Seo personally for the collapse. Who? Another glance between them. We're still confirming, Ji-Seo said. Stop doing that, my voice sharpened. Stop exchanging looks over my head like I need to be protected from information about my own life. Ji-Seo's jaw tightened, but she nodded. Park Sung-joon, she said, former majority shareholder of Hana, he lost everything in the acquisition. He's been building a case to expose internal corruption at KJS Capital, fabricated corruption, and he needed someone close to me to make it credible. He used Nare, or Nare used him. We're not sure which direction the relationship runs. I pressed my palms flat against the table, breathed. 6 years of friendship. 6 years of being the person Nare called her sister. Every coffee, every secret, every night I had talked about Ji-Seo. Glowing, terrified, completely in love. Nare had been listening with an agenda I never suspected. Every single word I ever said about Ji-Seo, she had been feeding it to someone who wanted Ji-Seo destroyed. Saren's hand moved across the table. Slowly, she placed it over mine. Not aggressive, not presumptuous. Just warm. Just present. You didn't know, she said quietly. This is not yours to carry. I looked at her hand on mine. Then my phone screen lit up. A message from Nare. We need to talk. I'm outside. Nare is outside this building right now. She doesn't know I know, and I have to decide in the next 30 seconds whether to let her in. Or finally let her show me exactly who she has been all along. I thought I was her only love. Then she introduced me to the woman she couldn't leave. I typed back 3 words. Come up, now. Ji-Seo's hand shot across the table. Soo-Yeon, don't. She's already here. I set my phone down. Which means she knows I'm here. Which means this isn't coincidence. Saren stood immediately. Her entire energy shifted. The warmth gone, replaced by something sharper, more alert. She could be dangerous. She's my best friend. The words tasted wrong now. Like something that had spoiled without me noticing. She won't hurt me. She needs something. Let's find out what. Ji-Seo and Saren exchanged that look again, the one that moved between them like a current I wasn't part of. But this time I didn't resent it. I was too focused, too cold, too hollowed out by betrayal to feel anything except the specific, surgical need to know the truth from Nare's own mouth. The elevator hummed from somewhere below us. We waited. Nare looked exactly like herself. That was the most disorienting thing. I had half expected her to look different. Guilty, exposed, transformed by what I now knew about her. But she stepped off the elevator in her familiar oversized jacket, hair pulled back carelessly, eyes finding mine with that same easy warmth she had always carried like a signature. Then she saw Ji-Seo, then Saren. Her expression didn't collapse. It recalibrated. So fast, so controlled. I had known this woman for 6 years, and I had never once noticed how quickly she could recalibrate. I didn't know you had company, she said carefully. Yes, you did. My voice was flat. You know everything, Nare. Apparently. A beat. Something moved behind her eyes. Soo-Yeon. Sit down. She sat. The 3 of us arranged around her like a constellation she hadn't planned for. I watched her clock the room, Saren's careful stillness, Ji-Seo's barely contained fury, my silence, which I knew from experience was the most dangerous thing she could encounter from me. How long? I asked. She looked at me. How long what? How long have you been feeding information to Park Sung-joon? The name landed. Her composure fractured. Just slightly. Just a hairline crack across the surface. But I saw it. After 6 years, I knew exactly where her cracks lived. I don't know what. Nare. Just her name. Nothing else. She closed her mouth, looked at her hands, then, quietly, like something deflating, 8 months. The silence that followed was the kind that changes rooms permanently. Ji-Seo made a sound, barely audible, controlled rage compressed into a single exhale. Saren didn't move. I kept my eyes on Nare. Why? She looked up. and what I saw on her face wasn't what I expected. Not triumph, not cold calculation. Something rawer than that. Because she hurt someone I loved, Naray said. Her eyes moved to Ji-Seo. Brief. Burning. The Hana acquisition. The collapse. She looked back at me. My brother worked for Hana Consolidated for 11 years. He lost everything when Ji-Seo absorbed the company and restructured. His pension, his position, everything. Her voice cracked. He didn't recover, Soo-Yeon. He still hasn't. The room shifted. I hadn't known about a brother. 6 years and I hadn't known. So you used me. My voice broke on the last word despite everything. You handed me to someone like a weapon. I told myself that knowing the truth about her would protect you. Her eyes were wet now. That you deserved to know who she really was. And the anonymous messages tonight, the photograph? Naray's brow pulled together, genuine confusion crossing her face. What messages? She said. Soo-Yeon, I didn't send any messages tonight. My blood chilled. I looked at Ji-Seo. Ji-Seo looked at Seren. If Naray didn't send those messages, a sharp knock at the penthouse door cut through the silence. 3 deliberate knocks. Nobody moved. Then a voice came through the door. Low, measured, and completely unfamiliar. I think it's time we all met properly. Someone else has been in this building the entire time, and they've been waiting for exactly this moment, when all of us are finally in the same room.
Nobody opened the door. For 3 full seconds, nobody breathed. Nobody moved. Nobody acknowledged that a stranger had just announced themselves from the other side of Ji-Seo's penthouse door, like they had been waiting in the hallway all evening, for exactly the right moment. Ji-Seo moved first. She crossed the room with that controlled, precise stride, the one that closed boardrooms and ended arguments, and checked the security panel beside the door. Her face didn't change, but her hands stilled against the panel in a way that told me everything. She knew the face on the camera. Ji-Seo. My voice was quiet. Who is it? She didn't answer immediately. That pause, that single, loaded pause, was its own confession. Open it, Seren said from behind me. Not a suggestion. Ji-Seo opened the door. The woman who stepped inside looked like someone who had never once been caught off guard by anything. Mid-50s, immaculate, silver-streaked hair pulled back with the kind of effortless precision that cost significant money to achieve. She wore a charcoal coat and carried nothing. No bag, no phone visible, no props. Just herself, which was clearly enough. Her eyes moved across the room in one sweep. Naray, Seren, me. Cataloguing, assessing, landing finally on Ji-Seo with an expression that contained a history I wasn't part of. Kwon Ji-Seo, Ji-Seo said. Her voice was stripped completely flat. How did you get up here? Not a question. An accusation wearing a question's shape. I own the building, the woman said simply. I've always owned the building. You lease the penthouse, Ji-Seo. There's a difference. I looked at Ji-Seo. Something I had never seen on her face before was living there now. Fear, clean and undisguised. Everybody sit, Kwon Ji-Seo said pleasantly. We have things to discuss. Nobody sat except her. She chose Ji-Seo's chair at the head of the table, deliberately, I was certain, and folded her hands with the patience of someone who had been waiting for this specific evening for a very long time. Who are you? I asked. Her eyes moved to me, sharp, intelligent, and carrying something I couldn't name yet. Not warmth exactly, but attention. The specific attention of someone who had been watching you and had formed opinions. I'm Ji-Seo's mother, she said. The room detonated silently. I turned to Ji-Seo. Ji-Seo's jaw was set so hard I could see the tension from across the room. Naray made a small sound. Seren, composed, unshakable Seren, had gone very still in the way of someone absorbing a shock they were too disciplined to show. You told me your mother was dead, I said to Ji-Seo. She is, Ji-Seo said. To me, Ji-Young smiled faintly. My daughter has always been dramatic. What do you want? Ji-Seo's voice could have cut glass. What I've always wanted. Ji-Young's eyes returned to me. To meet the woman my daughter actually loves. A pause. As opposed to the arrangement she's been hiding behind for 5 years. Seren's breath shifted beside me. Ja-young looked at her. The marriage was my idea. Oh, Seren. I assume you suspected that. The financial clause, the dissolution timeline, all of it. Architecture I designed to keep Ji-Seo bound to something manageable while I waited for her to stop running from herself. You engineered their marriage, I said. I protected my investment. Your investment. Ji-Seo's voice was barely controlled. I am not your investment. You are the result of everything I built. Ja-young's composure didn't flicker. And you were about to destroy KJS Capital over a woman you'd known 14 months. Her eyes came back to me. Not unkind, not cruel. Something more complicated. I needed to know if you were worth it. My pulse was loud in my ears. And, I said. Ja-young reached into her coat and placed a document on the table. I recognized the header immediately. It was my personnel file. Every contract, every client, every security clearance, going back 7 years, before I ever met Ji-Seo. You've been watching me, I whispered, since before my daughter knew you existed. She nodded once. Yes. Ji-Seo made a sound I had never heard from her before. It was almost like pain. Ji-Seo's mother didn't just engineer the marriage. She engineered me. Every job that led me to that gala, every contract that put me in Ji-Seo's orbit, none of it was coincidence. And she's been holding my file for 7 years, waiting for tonight. 7 years. I kept turning that number over in my mind, like a stone, with something sharp underneath it. 7 years ago I was 21, broke, translating legal documents for $60 an hour in a city that didn't know my name. I thought I was building my life through sheer persistence and quiet desperation, but someone had been arranging the bricks. You placed me, I said. My voice was very calm, the kind of calm that lives on the other side of too much shock to feel anything cleanly. The contracts, the clients, the security clearances that kept elevating me into higher corporate circles. Ja-young didn't deny it. I identified you 4 years before Ji-Seo noticed you. Your profile was extraordinary. Your discretion, your intelligence, your emotional capacity. You were exactly what my daughter needed and didn't know how to find. I wasn't a person to you. The calm was cracking now. I was a selection. You were a solution, she said. There's a difference. There really isn't. Ji-Seo moved. She stepped between me and her mother, with a physicality I had never seen from her. Not CO precision, not controlled elegance, but something rawer. Protective. Her back was to me, and she was facing Ja-young with her shoulders set like a wall. Enough, Ji-Seo said. You don't get to sit in my home and explain her to herself. Ja-young looked at her daughter with an expression that was almost maternal. I did what you couldn't do for yourself, she said quietly. You were destroying everything, Ji-Seo. The business, yourself. That arrangement with Seren was supposed to stabilize you, and instead you buried yourself in it. You needed someone real. So you manufactured real. Ji-Seo's voice shook. I had never heard it shake before. You built a path and put her on it, and called it fate. I created an opportunity. What happened between you was yours. Nothing feels like mine right now. Ji-Seo turned to me. Her eyes were devastating, open in a way I had only seen in total darkness. In private, in moments she never showed anyone else. Soo-Yeon, what I feel for you was never part of her design. I need you to know that. I looked at her, at this woman I had loved completely and been kept in the dark by, and was currently standing in the wreckage of everything I thought we were. I believe you, I said. Her breath released. It doesn't fix anything, I added. Her breath stopped again. Seren spoke from behind me, quiet, precise. Ja-young, the anonymous messages tonight, the photograph of our legal meeting, that was you. Naturally, you were accelerating the timeline. Ji-Seo was stalling. Again, Ja-young's eyes moved between all of us with the patience of someone conducting an orchestra. The dissolution window closes in 89 days. If she doesn't act, the financial clause triggers, and KJS Capital absorbs a loss significant enough to invite hostile acquisition. She paused. I needed everyone in the same room. I needed the truth to surface before Ji-Seo's cowardice buried it permanently. Na Seol-rae made a sound from the corner. We had all almost forgotten her. Park Sung-joon, Na Seol-rae said carefully. He's real. His threat is real. Ja-young looked at her with something approaching respect. Yes, he is. Which is why this family needs to stop fracturing and start protecting itself. We are not your family, Ji-Seo said. Ja-young stood, smoothed her coat, looked at me with those sharp, assessing eyes that had apparently been tracking my life since I was 21 years old. Not yet, she said. She walked to the door, paused with her hand on the frame. Park Sung-joon files his fabricated evidence with the financial board Monday morning, she said. You have 72 hours. She looked at Ji-Seo. Choose, Ji-Seo. All of it or none of it. You don't get the middle ground anymore. The door clicked shut. The five of us, four now, stood in the wreckage of an evening that had dismantled everything. Then Seren's phone screamed to life. She looked at the screen. Every trace of color left her face. The documents, she said. Park Sung-joon didn't wait until Monday. She turned the screen toward us. The filing timestamp read 11:59 p.m. tonight. Park Sung-joon just filed his case against KJS Capital at midnight. And somewhere inside those fabricated documents is my name, my work, my entire professional history, weaponized against the woman I love and the wife she couldn't leave. My name was in those documents, not as a witness, not as a footnote, as a co-conspirator, a fabricated paper trail painting me as the insider who fed confidential corporate intelligence to KJS Capital's competitors over 3 years. Clean, detailed, completely manufactured. Park Sung-joon hadn't just targeted Ji-Seo. He had built his entire case on destroying me first. I sat down slowly. The city outside the window was still glittering, indifferent, vast, beautiful. And I thought distantly that it looked exactly the same as it had 2 hours ago, when I arrived here believing I was coming to a romantic dinner with the woman I loved. 2 hours. Everything I was had been dismantled in 2 hours. Seren was already on her phone, low, rapid, commanding. Ji-Seo was beside her, pulling up documents on her laptop with those precise, surgeon hands that didn't shake even now. Na-rae sat in the corner, arms wrapped around herself, watching me with wet eyes I didn't have the capacity to address yet. I watched Ji-Seo work. Even now, even inside everything broken between us, she was fighting. Not for KJS Capital. I could see the difference. She was pulling files that pertained specifically to my name, my clearances, my professional record. Building a counter-narrative around me before she built one around herself. She felt me watching. She looked up. I'm going to fix this, she said. I know. And I did know. That was the devastating complexity of loving someone who had hurt you, knowing with complete certainty that they would burn everything down to protect you, while also knowing they had been the one to put you in the fire. Seren ended her call. Her composure was back, full, seamless, the mask perfectly replaced. But something underneath it had shifted permanently, something that had been there since she placed her hand over mine earlier. I've contacted our legal team, she said, and Ja-young's. A pause. We need to move together on this. All of us. I looked at her. You're including me. Your documentation is the cleanest in this room. Your professional record is untouched by any actual wrongdoing. Which means, if we can demonstrate the fabrication clearly, your testimony carries the most weight with the financial board. She held my gaze. You're not a liability in this, Soo-Yeon. You're the strongest thing we have. Something shifted in my chest. Small, significant. I turned to Na-rae. She flinched before I spoke. Soo-Yeon, I need everything, I said. Every communication with Park Sung-joon. Every document you passed. Every meeting. My voice didn't waver. If you give me everything, I can use it. If you hide anything, it buries all of us. Na-rae's eyes spilled over. She nodded. Once. Broken and certain simultaneously. Everything, she whispered. I promise. We worked through the night. The four of us. Enemies, and lovers, and betrayers, and the betrayed. Spread across Ji-Seo's dining table, with laptops, and legal files, and cold coffee, dismantling Park Sung-joon's fabricated case piece by piece. Nare pulled communications. Serin reconstructed the financial timeline. Ji-Seo built the legal counterfiling, with a focus and ferocity that made the room feel charged. And I translated, because that was what I did. What I had always done, taking complex, dangerous language and making it precise and clear and impossible to misread. 7 years of skill that someone had tried to weaponize against me. I took it back and made it a blade pointed the other direction. Around 4 a.m., Serin sat back and said quietly, "It's enough. We have enough." Ji-Seo looked at me across the table, exhausted, stripped of every layer of CEO armor, just herself, guilty and fierce and completely helplessly present. Soo-Yeon. Her voice was barely above a whisper. "I have to ask you something." I waited. "When this is over," she stopped, started again. "When the dissolution is final, and the case is closed, and there's nothing left between us, except the truth, will you still want to know me?" The table was silent. Serin was very still. I thought about 14 months of real love wrapped around an incomplete truth. I thought about a woman who fought for me before she fought for herself. I thought about what it cost to love someone past the point where love was comfortable. "Ask me again," I said quietly. "When you've chosen me completely, not around something, not beside something." I held her gaze. "When I'm the only answer, ask me then." Ji-Seo nodded. Something in her eyes settled. Not relief, not yet. Something more like a beginning. Serin's phone lit up. She read the screen, looked up at both of us with an expression I had never seen on her before. Almost like peace. "The board received our counterfiling," she said. "Park Sung-joon's case has been flagged for fraud investigation." A pause. "It's over." The room exhaled. Then Ji-Seo's door opened. Ja-young stood in the frame, still immaculate, still composed, as if she had never left, as if she had been waiting in the hallway all night for exactly this moment. She looked at me, not at Ji-Seo, not at Serin, at me. "I chose well," she said simply, and for the first time since this night began, since the third wineglass, since Serin's dark eyes, since my entire world rearranged itself over candlelight, I almost smiled. Almost. Because Ji-Seo was looking at me like I was the only solid thing in a spinning world. And this time, knowing everything, having survived everything, I finally believed her. Love doesn't always arrive cleanly. Sometimes it arrives through secrets and shadows, and the specific wreckage of everything you thought you knew. But when it finds you, really finds you, it looks you in the eyes and says, "I see all of it. I'm staying anyway." If this story cracked something open in you, you already know where to find the next one.